What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Bingetown TV and our coverage of Amazon's The Wheel of Time. So it's been 2 years, I guess technically less, but 2 years since we've covered Wheel of Time. We're absolutely stoked to the max about being back. This is the exact crew that covered season one. So my name is Kyle, and then you'll hear from the rest of the three. I guess I'll be the host. I technically have read the most Wheel of Time, so I'll kind of be that guy for us. I've read all of the books. I've read the first 10 twice, the first three times, which is kind of weird, but that's the truth of it. Before we get into actually talking about the episode itself, just very quick, Bingetown housekeeping. Best way to support us is just going to be subscribe whenever you're watching or listening on. You don't need to do it right now, but just keep that in your mind once Paul drops a really funny joke and you're like, oh, I freaking like these guys. And then, you subscribe. So that's the best way to do that. And then the best way to interact with us is going to be our Twitter is at Bingetown TV. And then we have a Discord as well. The Discord link will be, I believe, in the description of this episode. And it should be very easy to join. That sentence just kind of came out of my mouth. So I'll stop talking now. We'll get into season 2, Wheel of Time, episode 1, A Taste of Solitude. And I'll let the others that are on this call with me, they'll kind of introduce themselves.
Others on this call, like an actual work call.
Yeah, true.
Hi, my name is Dave. Yeah, I'm a newbie watcher. Well, obviously have watched the show, but I've never read the books. Really enjoyed season one. I'd like to think I was one of the more higher ones on season one overall. I think if you've heard the preview of season two that Kyle and Luke and I forget who else Jimmy did. They also pitched, they let you guys know that I thought this show was at least an A tier in my mind. I'm still feeling that vibe. This episode was incredible, and it's crazy to think that it's been 2 years. It literally feels like, honestly, very recently that we just got done season one. But we finished our season one rewatch, and I really loved it on my rewatch. It's been a phenomenal show, and season two continues to pick up where season one left off.
Yeah. I am Paul. I'm the other rookie, and
You look so relaxed right now.
I am very comfortable, and I'm very happy after watching. This is fresh off of my first viewing of season 2, episode 1. So like Dave, I'm a rookie coming in, saw season 1 because we didn't have anything to compare it to, and it was, no source material. Couldn't really like poke holes in it or anything. So it was enjoyable to watch. To talking to you guys about some of the complaints, I can totally understand why there are people in the community that, aren't happy with what the show did. But from a rookie standpoint, loving it so far. Episode 1 of season 2 was pretty damn good as well.
So this is Luke. I am the other book reader on this recording. If you caught our coverage of season 1, at the time I was about 2 or 3 books in. So basically the subject matter that's going to be covered throughout this season, I would have already read it last time we were recording. But now, since then, I've finished the whole series. So not going to call myself an expert, but I'm right there behind Kyle with just the knowledge of the source material. And I will say right off the bat, we did not address any of the issues from season 1 that I thought we were going to. We'll talk about that later. But ignoring that piece of it, this was a great start to the season. It kind of felt timely that they just did it like a year after the last Beltane. So like it really was a good reset, restart. This is not going to be a COVID affected season. So I'm hoping only up from here. And I already really like the premiere. And so, yeah, I'm ready to get into it.
All right. So the way that this episode is going to go, we will discuss the opening scene, and then we'll kind of take the 3 main storylines on their own. So we'll talk about the Hunt for the Horn storyline, all of those scenes, and then we'll move to the White Tower, I think, and then Land and Moraine. Just essentially, those are the 3 story buckets. That's how the episode itself went. So that's how our coverage will go. We're not just going to go chronologically jumping all around. It's just easier for everyone involved. All right. So, wow, we're really doing it. Wheel of Time coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So the episode opens with what is known as the Dark Friend Social in the community. They actually released this clip ahead of time, like, I don't know, maybe a month or 2 ago. I just made that up. But they released it essentially on the back of the season 1 finale. So many people rather, have seen this scene already. But for me, this scene's really just all about perspective. It's just a really interesting look at kind of the other side of the fence almost. So we get a lot of info here. Just curious of what you guys were thinking as I kind of, we're back season 2 and this is how we open it up.
This was awesome. I mean, it was going right into the one of the biggest, obviously the biggest villain, and like any more of his backstory is great because we barely saw him season one. When he did finally get him in the finale, it was great. So a little bit more of him is always a good thing. And to show that the menacing Trollocs are actually kind of under his, or at least they respond to him well. That was awesome. It's hysterical that it's called the Dark Friends Social.
Yeah.
It's like the Dark
Remind you
Friend.
of Thon.
Yeah, it's like the potluck. It's like all right. Now that we're done with the meeting, now we can go to the buffet. Who brought the buff chick dip?
Who do you think would have brought the buff chick dip?
Oh, Pot on Fane, right?
Oh yeah, dude.
He makes a mean buff chick.
Speaking of him, we saw him. So at one point they were referred to, I assumed everybody at the table was referred to as the chosen ones. So I don't know exactly what that means, but we know the Dark One is a chosen one, and as well as assuming the other ones at the table. So I don't know exactly what that entails, but Padden Fane, he was one. Maybe we know somebody else that was at that meeting and we just didn't see them.
One is clearly a mother, which is going to be, I feel like that's just like already an interesting dichotomy of like they're evil. Like we know they're evil as a dark one, but they also live a normal life. It seems like, at least in the quick seconds that we got, because the little girl shows up, she's calling for mom, who I'm assuming mom must have been at the meeting. So I'm just interested to see how these characters, just interact in their daily lives. Like this is like the dark one. It's at what point do I start to not root for our main characters, because I fucking love the dark one. I think the actor is incredible. Padden Fane was obviously one of my, if you've listened to our season one coverage, Padden Fane was one of my favorite characters from there. So like,
You were also a child Balda fan.
so, all right, yeah, maybe, yeah, we'll slow our roll a little bit, but this was really interesting. I mean, I just loved how the dark one was kind of talking about monsters and like what really makes a monster. Like, do I seem like a monster to you guys? And the little girl replies, not really. And it'll be interesting to see where they go with that in the future, just because obviously, and to us, we've been introduced to the Trollocs, like clearly evil monsters, but in this scene here, we get a little bit of a reaction to them getting like a hand brushed against them a little bit. So just awesome scene. Honestly, this might have been my favorite scene of the whole episode. It was just, I craved Dark One content, and this was just like perfect.
We watched this like drunk as hell last night, and I forgot that we did that until I woke up. I was like, oh my God, I forgot we did that. So to kind of go on that perspective point that I made and that you guys also are making, the thing with the Chosen is that, so in season one, we saw Steppen, I believe, is like doing like a little ritual with those idols, those 7 idols, or the number is escaping me at the moment, but he calls them the Forsaken. And then here we get the reverse side of it, is they call themselves the Chosen. So that's kind of a little perspective flip. But the people at that table aren't the Chosen or / Forsaken. The Forsaken are just, they're they were from the Age of Legends, like with the original dragon, all that kind of stuff.
Because they did refer later in the episode, I think, to Padden Fane. Like there was a sentence of them saying like Padden Fane and Chosen. Like I don't know, that's probably what you were thinking.
Yeah,
of, and I don't really know too much either.
The people at the table are just dark friends. I mean, they're obviously, I think, higher level than like someone like Dana, who we met in episode 3. But they're not at the level of the Chosen / Forsaken.
We got a flash of a black ring, like kind of like the ones the Aes Sedai have, except there's just straight black. So I don't think we've seen that before. So that's cool.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just like a sign of like a male magic wielder. That's kind of like where my head's at.
Or just like a dark friend.
I mean, yeah, or just a dark friend. But you're right. I mean, it looked eerily similar to the Aes Sedai ring, so that's just what I'm kind of hinting on.
I'm trying to be super careful here because I don't know because like, okay, you put it out there already. So like, yeah, okay, the Forsaken is a synonym for the Chosen. So we have that on the table right now. And just, I think it's worth it for you guys to go back and just listen to the way like he calls himself like the father of lies. I think is an act
the Forsaken too. I'm pretty
sure.
He
says the Forsaken, and then he ends up saying Chosen.
They call me.
Yeah. So just keep that in the back of your head of just like the way he talks about himself. But there was a lot to unpack here, and you guys are already picking up on the good stuff there. Like the ring from the Aes Sedai is huge, and then we see that the symbol of on the bottom half of the robe,
bird, not a herring.
Yes.
I feel like that just to me right away, I was just thinking like, I guess birds must have some kind of symbolic meaning here, because obviously
Rand.
Rand's sword
Yeah,
is
as
the
the
herring,
herring
and
mark.
this was like an eagle or something. I couldn't really
Yeah,
tell.
it's the so I mean, you get the answers in the episode essentially. So like the what they show us of who's sitting there. So we get presumably an Aes Sedai because we have the ring. Then we have a Shinaran, which is this eagle person in the robe, which is we were in Faldara at the end of last season in Shinar. The people that are from that big fortress city, they're Shinarans. We eventually we kind of get that confirmation later when we'll talk about the parent storyline, which will happen literally directly after this conversation. We get Patton Fane obviously is there. We have someone with just like freakishly long fingernails who's sitting there.
It's gonna be so hard to find out who that is when we introduce that. When we get
what a
introduced to them.
defining trait of a single person, just freakishly long fingernails. And then we get potentially a white cloak. There's someone there that's wearing all white. Obviously, they have the black hoods on and everything, but they have like white pants.
I just imagine
And they
they
have,
have
like,
dark ones have bodies everywhere.
the
Yeah,
white
that's-
gloves and stuff.
That's the
the
genius
point.
of the faction, and that's why I loved episode 3 so much from season 1, is because like the Dana reveal was one of my favorite parts, and this is the reason. Like they can be anywhere. And the other takeaway is that they're basically being told to hunt down Rand, but don't kill him if he can be turned, but then kill him if he can't be. That's like the huge takeaway. And this is exactly how book 2 opens. It's like the prologue.
this is-
so we've been waiting
literally
for
the
this.
prologue
Oh, that's awesome.
to book
Yeah,
two.
it's a really good start to book 2.
Yeah,
It's a really
and
great start to season 2.
it was a
Yeah.
good way to do it too, because in the book, it's obviously it's from someone's perspective, so it's all internal thoughts of him, like thinking like, oh, like that's a Shinaran, or like, oh wow, there's someone that's there's an Aes Sedai with the ring there. So like they did a good job, I think, of visualizing it for the show medium.
I
But
live
all
for those Pod on Fane smiles
Yeah,
too.
he's such a little rat.
He's so good.
We also we got the little girl in the very beginning when she was outside. She was just kind of on a plaque that was kind of the yin yang symbol, or like the dragon's fang, I believe, is what that mark was called as well. So I guess this
So
building,
the Dragon's Fang is the male half,
So just like that black part.
which is
Okay,
why
so
it's like
filled
half
in.
the yin yang, and that's what they mark people who they say like this guy's a Chandler or whatever. So that's what that symbol is. But when they're both together, it represented like the female and the male sides together.
It's like an old symbol of the Aes Sedai, essentially.
Gotcha.
Okay.
What you were about to say, I feel like was just like this meetup spot that they have. It is clearly going to be related to like some Aes Sedai historical building. I feel like personally, like maybe even from when like the original. Like the original 3,000 years ago when the original dragon and Dark One fought.
Yeah, the pointed buildings and all the different. Like, almost
What
looks like
building?
the pointed building. It's got a few
6
different
points.
points.
6 points. Yeah.
Uh,
Also, this
So you
let's
guys
not
are
just-
saying 6. I could have sworn I counted 7.
I think
but-
it was 7.
Okay.
That might have just been stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. As I think like the number 7 means more to the story than it being 6.
You know what I'm kind of thinking of now too is this scene really reminded me of that Harry Potter scene with Voldemort and like when you get the perspective of the old
Nagini.
man. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
that
when Nagini
really
comes
was hitting me here, and I'm like, I really like that scene in Harry Potter. So
Yeah.
it's no surprise that I really liked it here too.
That's a pretty
Spoilers,
good-
dude.
Yeah. Spoilers.
Okay. So we're gonna move into now just the Hunt for the Horn storyline. So this is our kind of reunion with Perrin and Loyal. So we get Perrin, Loyal, and then we're introduced to we're reintroduced, I guess, to Uno. We get introduced to Lord Ingtar, who they didn't really name him as a character last season. There's 2 actors that look alike, like the guy who's playing Ingtar and someone that was in season 1, who were in that classic, I use sarcastically, scene with the Horn of Valyr and Patton Fane in the season 1 finale. And then we get there's another character named Missima is with them as well. Those are kind of like the named characters here.
Shout out the Last Kingdom, baby.
Yeah, shout out to our boy Citric. So I guess like before talking about things that happen here, just like a general take on like what you guys were feeling when we get, we see Loyal again, we see Perrin again.
So I mean, we all watched it together. So obviously the book readers had a sigh of I can't believe they did this kind of. And you know what, as even with someone with fresh eyes, I'm never going to be a fan of like fake out deaths like that. It's like it's either you get stabbed multiple times, you're either dead or like you're living. But they made it so obviously that it felt like Loyal was dead in season 1 that I was definitely shocked. I mean, I'm certainly happy. Like Loyal was amazing, a very funny character, love his character, and I'm glad that we have him back. But at the same time, it's like you put him in such a like he was right on death's edge in the last season. Like should be dead, and I agree. The other 2 should also be dead, especially when facing Eyeless, who just completely are just skilled swordsmen apparently and can just like slice off heads immediately. Like I think all 3 of them should have been dead. That's probably it for me.
I'm thinking Perrin's hair and facial
Oh, yeah,
hair
that looked
looking
good.
great.
Yes, it did.
But yeah, kind of same thing. If I didn't pod with you guys after watching the finale, I would assume that like Loyal is dead. Loyal or Loyal?
Loyal.
You can do what
Loyal
you
is
want,
dead.
honestly.
Yeah, they're fine.
So I wasn't exactly surprised seeing him here, but I would have been if I didn't talk to you guys. And um, yeah, I guess I was expecting some of the other guys to be dead as well, but they weren't. So again, the fake out just kind of in the rewatch just kind of like a weird
It's not even like we don't
wow
even get to
factor.
see like any
Healing or
healing
yeah.
or anything. Like they just
Mm.
appear and they're just healthy. It's like
Part of me honestly prefer like I don't mind that they were just like fuck it, we're just gonna roll with
yes,
it.
but at least give us like if they're dying, like at least like cauterize some wounds, maybe like in the last season. Like give us something that makes us believe that they should live for the next season.
Top 3 biggest complaints from season 1,
Yeah.
without a doubt, was this stuff. And
Yeah.
it sucks because it takes away the anything to do with the dagger being just anything but a random dagger. That's the part that bothers me. We're gonna have to just eat this because they're not gonna retcon it. At this point. We're just moving on, I think, and we're just gonna
Pat and
forget it.
Fane's soft. He didn't deal a finishing blow. Points deducted for Pat
Yeah.
and Fane in my
Yeah.
eyes.
So what exactly were they talking about? Please forgive us because we don't have subtitles yet with the screener, so we can't have all the information fully clear.
Mhm.
But what were they exactly talking about with like there's a new tracker, a sniffer?
Yeah,
Are they
so-
talking? They're not talking about the eye patch guy, are they?
No, they're not.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess moving forward with this storyline itself, just I think one important thing about the conversation that Perrin and Loyal have on their own is that we're getting kind of confirmation. It's starting to get confirmation that they believe Rand is dead because Moraine basically told them that. Perrin basically, implies essentially that Rand's not around anymore. So I thought when I first watched, I was like, oh shit, I forgot almost that is going to be like a thing. Like they're all going to think that Rand's dead. So that's like an interesting little thread that's kind of ongoing throughout this episode, and then I'm sure will be throughout the rest of the season. But yeah, so we basically learn that they're on the hunt for the horn. The second book is called The Great Hunt. The book is basically all about this, the hunt for the horn. Obviously, things are different. Rand, Matt, and Perrin and Loyal all go on the hunt in the books. And it's pretty much all from Rand's perspective on this. So this is, I think, a better chance for Perrin to kind of shine a little bit.
Big audible.
Yeah, but I think it works well because so basically in the books, there's things called sniffers. It's a really interesting power, you could say, quote unquote. They can basically smell like violence and crime, which is like a really odd thing. But so basically they have a guy with them that can do that.
So they're proficient in investigation. If we were D&D,
Pretty much they
Sure.
just get forced like to investigate murders and stuff. He like in the book he says like I literally tracked a guy from like across almost like the whole continent who killed someone in Faldara, and like he could just smell him and track him.
I feel like that sounds like a very profitable ability.
Oh yeah, I mean I guess, but one thing I guess is bad is that like it's like very effective like on them. Like you just smell violence. I feel like would be like a little bad.
Kind of
doesn't
like
smell good.
Fuck you up a little.
Yeah,
Kind of
it
like
smells
Ghetto and JJK.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it would kind of turn you bad maybe a little bit. So we meet this new tracker / sniffer. His name is Elias. This is a brand new character for us, obviously, in this season. It's a little bit of an audible from his character in the books, but I guess I'm just curious. Initial thoughts on Elias, and then obviously Luke and I will give our thoughts as well.
He had the eyes like Perrin, like
Eyes
the
like
beast.
Emba.
Well,
Yep.
not exactly.
Not like Emba.
Not Emba, but like Perrin when he goes like wolf mode. Also, he seemed cool, but he seemed quiet. So I wonder if he can, actually fight or if he just tracks or whatever. I guess we'll see. Looks like a fighter, but Perrin, like seeing the past with his wolf eyes, I was like, holy! Didn't know that was part of the package. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's I think kind of their visualization almost, because like the storyline in the books is essentially that the sniffer that they had disappears basically, and then Perrin knows that he can also do it kind of because of his like powers a little bit. Like he has good eyesight and smell and stuff. But he's like kind of an internal battle of like, should I tell him? Should I not? Like, are they going to kill me if I tell him? Type of deal. And then he eventually is like, okay, I literally have to do this.
So that was the visualization of him like sniffing and kind of being able, like breaking down what happened.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation of it for sure.
It seemed like Elias kind of saw him do that. And
Yeah.
was like, yo,
It seems as well that Elias can do the same thing because he says, there was a little girl that got away. So it seems like he obviously, had the same level of visions and like could tell what happened there.
He looked exactly like Heimdall from Thor. I don't know if you
Yeah.
know, but great character so far. Very interested to see it. Like he might be a mentor to Perrin. We'll see with the abilities that they're sharing. Who knows? But I definitely have him on my radar.
Yeah, pleasant surprise because I thought this character was going to be cut from the story. But he looks amazing, like way better than he did in my head when I was reading the books.
Yeah.
Like this is like a dream concept casting in my head. And I think he's going to be really interesting and a good scene stealer whenever he's around.
Yeah, they're really doing a good job, I think, of it establishing early the connection between Perrin and him. Like Paul said, I mean, the eyes is kind of a dead giveaway. He's also just like he just stares at Perrin, which I think is even more unsettling with the eyes that he has. So he's just literally just Jay chilling, just staring into Perrin's soul,
constantly investigating Perrin.
Yeah,
like, what is this guy? Oh, he
Nat
murdered
20,
his wife.
Nat 20s all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, literally, they just all they know is literally what happened. It's cool that we get to see. And Dave, to your comment earlier about the Dark Friends social, with the little girl, I don't think her mom's there.
Oh,
Like it seemed like she got away. Like we
like
watched
she
Pat
just
and
ran
Fane,
into a building, like
Yeah,
falling for her
like
mom.
we watched Pat and Fane kill her mom.
Oh, true. Duh.
Yeah, and
Didn't
she
even
like
think
ran
about that.
away. And I'm
You're
sure,
right.
I guess Pat and Fane, the weirdo, was like, "Hey, come with me for
Yeah.
whatever reason." Maybe
Well,
he's developing a little mentor.
Yeah.
So then we find out as well. Basically there's just like a bunch of bodies. There was a fight. And we see that there was a dead Shi'Naran, and Loyal kind of smacks us over the head with the connection we're supposed to make there. That he is the dark friend that we probably saw from the social, and he was the one that let in the Fades and Pat and Fane into Faldara at the end of or in the season 1 finale, who killed everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, I just have
I
another
would've spit
another
too.
note with just Elias stares at Perrin because he just does it again at the end of the scene. So yeah, then we move on to them kind of burying the bodies. They have a very similar, yeah, I said that word right, similar burial scene to at the I guess it's like episode 5 after like the huge
battle.
yeah, after the Loghain battle, which I think was just interesting. I think Steppen was supposed to be like from the Borderlands, so I'm interpreting that this is kind of like a Borderland funeral scene in my level. I mean, in my head, rather, it's like a a certain level of continuity that's pretty cool, that kind of culture. And then we had a very interesting conversation between Ingtar and Perrin.
I love this. I mean, so after rewatching season 1, I actually wasn't too crazy about Perrin as a character. There were a couple characters on my rewatch that I kind of fell off a little bit, just like a little, and Perrin
Name
was
them.
one.
Name the others.
Egwene definitely comes to mind, was one. Perrin.
You mean Paul's DR pick, Egwene?
Yeah.
I thought.
But I think this is great depth for Perrin as a character. Like this is something like besides like the killing his own wife, which obviously is a story in itself, but like
Putting that aside.
yeah, putting that aside, I mean, this is more depth for him as a character. I mean, we see here that he really, the anger that he has, like he doesn't hold himself, it seems like, responsible for his wife's death. He more so blames Pat and Fane for the events of the Trollocs unleashing and then him being in that frenzy, which caused him to kill his wife. And so now we're getting this speech from Perrin, him just saying, look, I have all this rage. And when I see, the closer we get, the more rage I feel. And then when I see Pat and Fane, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I think this is just going to be a really good character arc for Perrin because obviously last season we also saw him with the Tinkers, with the Way of the Leaf. So he has that whole knowledge of like peace, and like Loyal has been preaching that to him a little bit in the beginning of this season and the end of last season as well, before Loyal's fake death. So it's just interesting that I think Perrin's going to be a very complicated character going forward because he does want to follow the Way of the Leaf, but at the same time he admits here that he has this rage building inside him that is just going to unleash at some point.
Yeah, that was good picking up on all that, Dave. Because like that's just his whole thing. He's just constantly he's fighting this internal struggle of just like trying to be peaceful, but like fighting his natural state of just like you could tell he has this anger. He's like the gentle giant with like all this fucking rage inside. So everything to do with him he's gonna have the toughest scenes to write because he has so much internal conflict going on, and it's hard to do when it's not a book.
Yeah.
That's why they're going to do a lot of these types of conversations that get you thinking about like his mindset, because it's hard to show that on the screen.
His story was already like one of the more interesting ones. Like his character itself didn't like scream out to me, but the story of like, and the mystery of like what's going on with the wolves and his eyes, like that was all very interesting. So adding this depth of like character growth potentially for Perrin, I think that'll combine to be a good thing for us as watchers.
Question for you two right now, like what is your just 5-second grasp explanation of what you think Perrin's powers, like what is that?
I don't fucking know. He's basically like a wolf, but he can I don't know. I think I'm getting thrown off with the visuals of him like sniffing, quote unquote.
I'm also getting thrown off by like when this all started, because like, was it not like he got cut by a Trolloc and then all this stuff kind of started happening? So like in my head, I'm trying to piece together like, okay, did Elias in the past survive like a Trolloc cut, and like now they're kind of like, maybe this is one of the Trollocs abilities. I'm just kind of pulling shit out of my ass. Like,
Yeah.
maybe the Trollocs also are just naturally really good sniffers, and like because they've mixed blood and like now they have a little bit of their power. I really have no idea, but I'm taking, at first in season 1, I thought more of it as like a werewolf kind of thing. Like he got bit by something and now I thought he really was gonna transform into a werewolf. I didn't expect him to get like investigative powers like this.
That is a really interesting connection to make. It's not that the Trolloc connection. It's just like
That's what I keep hinging on that.
No,
too
it's
much,
just it's really interesting to hear because like that makes sense. Like if I'm thinking of it from a perspective of like not having any actual knowledge, like trying to piece things together, like that connection makes a ton of sense.
For all I know, he could have been born with this power. It's just coincidentally. I just keep hinting. I just keep in my brain, can't separate the fact that he got hurt by the Trolloc and then this shit started happening.
And I mean, they kind of hammer that home too with like the wolf scene in season 1 where like it comes up and licks his wound and stuff like that. I think they're maybe unintentionally, obviously, like forcing that connection there. So I don't think it's wrong for you to think that way. But they'll talk about it more and more. One interesting thing I do want to say about this is that so we hear in the Dark Friend social scene when the Dark One kind of caresses the Trolloc and he says like, he's part man, part beast, and like it's so difficult to be both. I think that's an interesting thing to keep in mind when thinking about Perrin as well.
I mean, and just in general, I thought that was just great backstory, because I don't know if we've ever been explained what a Trolloc actually was. So it was cool actually hearing that they are human. So I just wonder if they're like experiments gone wrong. Like maybe I got too much Witcher in my brain right now. Just like
no, that's the right way to we'll get more information on it for sure, I believe. But that's definitely.
But you did tell us in season 1 though that Trollocs kind of like are half human, and then like they're mixed with like it could be any animal. Hypothetically,
they've kind of
stuck. So that's what like I'm thinking. Like maybe the Trolloc that attacked Perrin was like wolf related, like a wolf Trolloc, and that's what. Again, I know we've confirmed that it's not that, but it's just
that's not even a terrible idea though. Like that, this is how Trollocs are created in a sense. Like you either are infected, and if you're given up into the beast inside of you, whatever, you become a Trolloc in the end. But probably not.
Dude, add that to your manga.
Yes, I mean that's not a terrible idea at all. And I can totally see why you would think that, but that's just, I guess it's better for me to just say that that's not what it is.
We saw him.
Paul's writing a manga.
we saw him Hulk out a little bit against Valda in like the tent, season 1, and he like kind of got like beast like traits and stuff like that. So I don't know if you can go like full werewolf or like turn into a wolf or whatever, or just get like appendages or parts like upgraded, if you want to call it like that or whatever. But
you never go full wolf.
I want to see him go all in.
That's the struggle. And Paul, so for I guess listeners and obviously the 4 of us here, throughout season 1, I was writing down all of your guys' takes and theories, and one of the ones that I love so much is Paul's series long take on Perrin is that he is like a reincarnated wolf king.
I'm in.
So I love it. Just to put that out there, that was Paul's season 1 take. So
hell yeah.
And I'll try as much as I can to remember the things you guys said, and when they're kind of relevant to the conversation, I'll try to bring them up. So they're always up on the board. They're on the board in terms of if the board is my notes app on my iPhone, but trying to verbalize them as much as I can on the podcast.
This is going to keep doubling
until
we get closer to the end.
Oh yeah, I love it. And we'll check some things off as well. So I want to shine a little bit of light on Ingtar himself as well. I feel like we learned in this scene that he has like this perspective kind of thread that I think gets woven throughout the entire episode. He's kind of, he has this level of honor. He has like a very like rational, not very emotional way of thinking, it seems like, because he's like, everyone kind of deserves this level of respect, even in death. Because Perrin's asking him, like, Uno spit on this guy. Like, why are we fucking burying them? Like, he literally got hundreds of people killed and all this kind of stuff. And then he has an interesting take on the Pat and Fane thing where he's like, I mean, you might not like the fucking answer, but like everyone in the world like does things. They have their own reasons for things. I don't think Perrin and Pat and Fane will ever have a sit down conversation, but I think it's just they're telling you. I feel like a lot about Ingtar by his takes on these things.
It's just getting like so many anime vibes from that conversation because it's like there's so many characters in anime that you just get introduced to and you're like, this guy is such a fucking dick or he's such a loser.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of backstory and it's like, shit,
Yeah,
I'm a terrible
Yeah,
person.
he's got a point.
yeah, exactly.
So like that's now I like this conversation too because again, like I love Patton Fane. I've loved his pure evilness so far, but it will be cool to see what his actual motivations are, wanting to become a dark friend. Like, sure, the rewards are great and whatever, but like it seems like for Patton Fane, maybe specifically, there's going to be a little bit more to it.
And for Uno, just keep track of how many times he curses when he's talking.
Yeah. That was I like that they gave him that little scene to shine where he's
Yeah.
like telling the story about how they almost had him. I love how Loyal's fucking with him too.
Even Loyal was laughing at him. I love that.
Yeah, that was good. All right, yeah. And then so we do also learn the first scene kind of that Perrin's been writing Nynaeve and Egwene letters. We'll talk about the letter when we talk about their storyline. We're not going to talk about it here. We'll do the lantern thing, I think, all at once too.
Yeah,
because
stuff,
there's a bunch of facets to that. It's probably not worth it to talk about it right now. So unless anyone else has anything to say about the Perrin storyline, I think we're going to mosey on over to the Moraine storyline.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're moseying. So this is the kind of opening beyond the Dark Friend Social. We get Moraine carrying buckets of water. This is kind of our reintroduction to her. They're kind of just reminding us essentially that she cannot use the power at this point. That was kind of where her story ended in the season 1 finale after her interaction with the Dark One. It's just kind of showing us her mental state. Lan's mental state obviously is a big one. And we also get introduced to some new characters. So I think just kind of anything we want to talk about that's before actually talking about like her interaction with the ship captain guy. So just kind of, reintroduction to the storyline. We meet Varen, we meet Adelaus, we meet Tomas. So just kind of takes on these kinds of things.
Just her getting the water and bringing that up every day. We even learn a little bit of it, later on. She says no matter what, every day she just picks up those buckets and brings them in. We saw her taking a bath and like trying to use the one power. So I don't know if that has anything to do with like the healing waters or like a connection to the one power. We saw like the healing pools or sacred pools or whatever in season 1. So I don't know if that's like connected to this at all. Or
the water or like later, like Egwene's cleansing water later in the episode. Like,
oh yeah, I mean that might be something different.
trying to back you up.
Don't lump your theories in with my theory. So I don't know if that's literally just her like giving herself a purpose every day and just like trudging through, or if it's like her trying to get back into connection with the one power.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's like 99%. She's just trying to stay alive,
Okay.
and like give herself that purpose.
She doesn't have the ring on that I saw.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
So
Lan looks hot as fuck. That's gonna be my comment.
You guys both, as it went to his scene and it just meet his ab, and you guys both like, oh, it just like came out of both of your mouths.
And then he started typing.
Yeah, and it was just like, all right, write that down.
Yeah, he's looking good. Lan's great. He's one of my favorite characters personally. And Moraine, obviously, again, another favorite character. I just love so many of these characters. But yeah, she kind of annoyed me a little bit this episode, but we don't have the full picture of why, she's doing these things. So I can't get fully mad at her, but she was definitely a little frustrating to deal with as a Lan supporter.
Well, yeah, freshly disconnected from each other, Warder and I.
Yeah, they're no longer...
Definitely not looking the same at all. Even when they're not together, they look like miserable alone.
Yeah.
So they're obviously both going through their own shit right now. We got introduction to a new character, right? Varen
with it's VER.
Varen. Okay. Yeah. So I basically have her as the host of this Airbnb that Moraine and Lan are staying at.
Looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. Looks like a great place to live. They had the little garden that they picked through one scene that we'll talk about a little later. Like, what a life. This looks great.
Yeah, GeoGuessr, I would guess. They're in Italy, someplace.
Well, he is Italian. It came out of him. They're in the motherland, the homeland. So yeah, I mean, we learned.
Let me give some takes real quick. Just
please.
want to say that Varen, I'm a Varen stan. Like I couldn't wait for her introduction.
I was looking at you while like waiting for her to drop the name.
I'm sorry, but without the subtitles, can you just give me faces with the names that you're saying? So which one's Varen?
Varen is the one that was wearing like the brown vest, who like said like this is my house.
But it wasn't her house, or
it is her house.
Okay, so she's the one.
And then the other one that's wearing like all the colorful clothing and is like
Land.
Yeah, and is like
Yeah.
She's obviously, she seems.
What's her name?
Her name is Adeleas or Adelias, I believe. I believe that's
so Varen's going to be a fun character. She was one of the first people I think cast in the off season between season 1 and 2. So like we knew about her for a while. So I was really looking forward to that introduction. Bail Doman gets introduced too. I know we're going to talk about the content of that conversation because that's a huge part of Moraine's storyline, but another classic and just in the fandom, and just the way he speaks is always great too. Like they're nailing that. Like the doobie. I do be
that was great.
Coming here to I love all that.
My smile covered like my whole face first time I heard that. I was like, oh fuck yeah.
And then my only thing about the Moraine thing, we don't know if she's just shielded with a tie off or if she's stilled. They haven't really made that clear yet, but I do love how it matches very much how Logain was reacting after being gentled, where he was trying to get the Amerlin seat to kill him because he was so depressed. He was faking rage and stuff at her. And now even to this moment, Moraine is still crying every day that she can't touch the one power. And it just really reinforces what getting cut off from the power does to you. And basically everybody commits suicide once you hit a point after not living with it, after having touched it. So it's really good that they keep reinforcing that, because they reinforced that twice already since she's been cut off.
Yeah. And I mean, season 1, we remember Tom, we get Tom's backstory about his nephew. And he basically says that once he was gentled, however many years he might have lasted, months he lasted, he literally just killed himself.
He was just at dinner, just grabbed the knife and just cut his throat. Just insane.
So like Luke said, they're definitely hammering that point home. We got a little information here. Essentially, Adeleas is hungover. She kind of seems like a partier, quite a whimsical person. And then we know that Moraine has had 19 visitors up until this point to the villa, and then this horseman that's coming will be number 20. So we find out, like Luke said, that horseman is Bail Doman. He is the captain of the Spray, which is a riverboat, and he clearly, I feel like, in my opinion, he came off as a very interesting character. He seems to be a collector of some sort, and they have just a very interesting kind of business negotiation here in this scene.
Davos vibes.
Yeah, I mean, just complete open floor, whatever the hell we want to talk about with this. I have a lot of it written down, so we'll talk, and then I'll cover anything we didn't cover at the end of it.
He hails from the land of Ilia.
Ilian with an N. On
Ilian?
Yeah.
Do we know where that is? Have we been exposed to that before? I don't remember.
It's tough. They haven't done a good job, in my opinion, with the geography of things. Ilian's all the way on the south.
Gotcha.
It's the southernmost kind of point, almost kind of.
And this dude just sails a lot, though.
Yeah, he's a riverboat captain. So there's a lot of rivers that kind of cut through the continent. So he just kind of, is a trader that sails on riverboats. And that's kind of, plays into the idea he's a collector. He likes, old ancient things like that. Which obviously his profession makes it easier to do that because he gets to go to a bunch of different places and he's trading all the time and things like that.
We got some currency, baby. We got some currency, some marks. So we got that. Seems like, was it fit when she said 5 marks? So 5 marks is a lot. And then she was offering 50 marks, I guess, for the
he set the price as that, but yeah.
Okay. So just to put it, so in my head, so 5 marks is a lot of money. That would be
Okay.
Well,
she compares it to a Damani racehorse, which means really nothing to anyone that doesn't know, but that's good.
She said it was a really nice
that's honestly race. That's really good world building in terms of stuff from the books. We'll eventually go to that place and we'll learn more about that.
Yeah,
and that plays a role in that country, so that's an interesting thing.
The currency system itself means nothing to our podcast. I just wanted to bring it up that
it didn't really mean shit in the books. It wasn't
I'm sure it doesn't mean anything. Just good world building.
And the Queen DR, just know that's just a material that's rarer than diamonds. It is, and it can't be made. Most people never see it in their entire life. That's why it was casually worth 50 or 10 times
the destroyed, right?
It can't be destroyed
by even magic
until this. They're talking about what the heck's going on, because it normally is indestructible.
Right.
It's also called Heartstone.
Heartstone was what Rand and the Dark One were on. The season finale of 1.
It's the same thing. Queen DR is his name for it.
Some sort of connection there that Moraine's trying to do some investigation of it.
Why is it being destroyed?
Why is it cracking all over the world? I guess I have no idea. Literally nothing.
Yeah. So we learned that Mr. Doman or Master Doman came into possession of this a few months back outside of Kyrian. That's just a really, really, really important, pivotal, famous city that will be all in and around. We'll get all up in Kyrian at some point. But he basically says that a moon dial shattered one night. The dial itself had a poem written on it. and it was written in blood in the old tongue. He has a copy of the poem. Moraine fucking swindles his ass because, as she says, Aes Sedai invented the game. We do get actually a little bit of world building based off of that too.
The game.
He mentions the sea folk, just like if we want to call them a faction, they kind of just like, they sail like the seas, obviously the sea folk. And they're just like really infamous as like tough negotiators, and like dealing with them business wise is like very difficult. So we do kind of get that information a little bit here. So basically she gets the poem. That's the whole reason why she actually called him there. She kind of, against, like he said, or like I said earlier, she kind of swindles him. And he leaves, but not before they have a very interesting conversation about men that are following him. I really like how when he first says it, she says, your enemies are your own. Like, that's not me. I thought that was a good way to dismiss that. But he tells her that he doesn't know this, but she interprets this, that there's two fades following him. He mentions the town of Whitebridge. That's kind of important as well. We can talk more about that a little bit. And then he kind of goes on his way. So basically this scene, Moraine gets the poem, whatever was written on that moon dial that broke outside of Kyrian. And she kind of becomes obsessed with it almost after that.
Yeah, I wonder if the moon dial broke when Rand broke the Heartstone at the end of the finale. And two, if it wasn't that, because there's like a poem written on it, I don't know if like there's one person like going around and like hitting the Heartstones and then writing the poem on it in blood then too, or like I don't know. It's crazy. So definitely cool little mystery to run through the beginning of this season, and we still didn't get what the poem was.
Yeah,
we saw Moraine read it, but
she was shocked. She was shocked a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it drove her actions for the rest of the episode.
The one comment I have on that is I think we actually did. I might have misheard it, but I'm fairly certain they said that he said that stone cracked a couple months ago. And if I'm interpreting the timelines correctly, it sounds like the Rand Dark One showdown was at least like 6 months ago. So it seems like it wasn't at the same time. It's periodically happening over the course of whenever Rand sealed away the Dark One.
Kind of tough. I mean, he just says the spring.
Yeah, he said a couple months, but that again, like he didn't feel confident with that answer, so it could have easily meant 6 months of when it actually did happen. So I just feel like I heard that.
I think it's purposely ambiguous.
Okay,
I think Paul's correct to pick up on or try to make these types of connections.
I think so too.
I'll take these next couple of scenes, then you can finish out the bucket here, because like a lot that goes on is just like a mini growth moment for Lan, because he goes up, he confronts Moraine, like, what's going on? You're cutting me off. The bond's gone. I'm not in your head anymore. She's kind of leaving him out to dry, and that's her way of protecting him, is what I'm kind of getting the vibes of. And he gets madder, runs off. Then he gets the lesson from everybody else at the Airbnb, kind of talking to him through like what it really is like to have been cut off from the power. And Lan could not possibly understand that sort of pain that she's going through. And she's actually doing a fantastic job from their perspective of not just being miserable and useless. So like, this is just like a little moment for him to really just reset and say like, okay, like I've been following her for 20 years. I'm going to continue doing this. Like he's getting frustrated, but there's a reason for all this frustration, and it kind of plays out, and they mend it over the course of the last couple scenes. I don't know if there's anything specific you guys want to bring up about their back and forth before he kind of goes up and gives her the dinner and realizes she's gone. But that's all that really was. Like, there was that freak out, and you kind of took what I took from that.
I just like Lan's faith in Moraine when they offered, hey, do you want us to wait for your Moraine to finally come down? He's like, yeah. I mean, tonight's the night. Like, I can feel it. Like, even though like they're like fighting and they're not themselves at all, he still is like hoping and caring for her and like believes she'll come out of it, even if he is acting kind of I don't know what's the word,
like a baby.
Yeah, harsh towards her. He's definitely being harsh.
The take that I have is that I liked when Tomas is the man, first of all. Fantastic old guy look. Top five.
I had
top five old guy look.
I had to challenge him because he said this about Tom Maryland in season 1. I had to ask him, who would you rather look like?
Tomas. Look at this guy. Are you kidding me, dude? Look at his flow. He is just, if I could look 50% as good as that when I'm that age, I'll fucking die happy.
He honestly looks like how Geralt is kind of supposed to be portrayed. Like Geralt's supposed to be like an older looking guy. Yeah, he looks pretty good.
Yeah,
At the
dude, he's a
end,
fantastic old guy. Look,
with
what's
the sword
better?
in the hand too. Oh,
Yeah.
he's a fucking witcher.
This guy's a fucking beast. But he says to Lan, like, maybe you should shut up and listen more. And Lan kind of makes the joke of like, I think that's the first time in my life that anyone's ever told me to be quiet. That just reminded me of when we're in Shadow Logoth in episode 2, when Lan like explains everything, and Matt's like, well, first of all, that's probably the most words you've ever said ever.
Yeah.
So that's just like a fun little thread that's running through. But okay, yeah. So Lan then goes, takes up the dinner. Moraine is gone, and then we get to see her kind of she's running away. That then turns into a battle with the Fades. I thought they did a fantastic job of this. It was dark. That's just like a classic TV complaint. When they do things like this, it was quite dark. But I thought like the concepts in it were good.
And screener quality is a little bit down
Okay,
compared to
and there was
anything.
like, there's a little glare on your TV, yeah, things
as
like
long
that.
as it's not Game of Thrones level, like pitch
Yeah.
black. Like I could make it out, but it was. I think again, it was the TV glare. Like it was. We watched it middle of the day. Like the sun is
Yeah.
just beaming in here. Like if we had watched it like how we normally watch it with all the lights off, like at nighttime, like it would have been fine to watch.
I think they did a great job though of showing how the Fades hide in the shadow.
Oh, yeah.
and,
So
like,
good.
yeah, use it, and how smart Moraine is in the first place to even
Predict.
I don't
like,
know
where they
what
were
she was
coming.
doing when like she was dragging her foot on the ground, if she was intentionally trying to get it to like come over here and then like sneak it, but
That was so badass when she just turns and knifes him right in the head.
yeah, like she just jumped, she stabs like a shadow is what I see. She stabs into darkness, and all of a sudden you see the face with blood and everything coming off of it. It's really sick. I mean, I was expecting her to be absolutely useless without her ability to touch the one power, so it's really cool to see her putting up this huge fight when she's basically the husk of who she used to be.
My favorite part about this was the fact that Lan does come for that quick little hero moment, but they did not ruin the power. I'm gonna say power scaling of this, where like one warder is gonna sit there and take on 4 Fades, which are like kind of like the lieutenants, or I would say like sub generals. Like I wouldn't put them at the general level of like maybe the Chosen or Forsaken, but like they can't be something that one warder can take 4 of them on, right? Like he got his ass beat, but he did take out at least 2 of them. That all tracked really well, and especially with the second level of the hero save coming in with the Airbnb host.
That's my notes now are just literally Airbnb. Like
I love
it take
that.
me a little bit to
Yeah,
get used to the
Baron
name,
is
but
now an
yeah.
Airbnb host.
I have co-host
The
of
TV
Airbnb
show
host,
does
the
that.
host of an Airbnb, and then Thomas Airbnb guy.
But I just didn't want the Fades to be nerfed too much, and
Yeah.
it seemed like they were going to win if it wasn't for that second level of support of reinforcements that show up.
It is interesting that I guess it's hard to tell, but like they did kind of nerf them a little bit. They did an interesting thing with them because like the ability to move through shadows, I thought is fucking awesome. It looks great. They're really hammering it home, which in my opinion, I didn't get a ton of that from the book so much. I feel like it wasn't like as clear and like obvious as it is in this scene. But also, I mean, like in the books, it's like a very specific thing that like you have to cut their heads off. And like that's like the only like even if you cut their head off, like they're still gonna be flailing around and stuff, and they really only die when the sun comes up is technically what it's supposed to be, or maybe it goes down.
It was crazy about the Trollocs only attacking at night.
But no, you weren't. But but I don't know. I guess it's just kind of I don't care that much, that it's maybe different.
I mean, that's what Lan did on the first one. He comes in straight up, 2 shots it.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
I was curious about that because I feel like they did say there's only 2 Fades, and like I'm counting like the fight's going on, like he knocks out 2, and I'm like, okay, that's it. And then like 2 more appear. I guess the information was probably a little sticky at first. Like the guy didn't really know how many actually were following him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did notice that too. That Lan went in for the kill with only head decapitation.
Yeah, that's like I guess like the surefire way. Although you do get the sound of Moraine stabs it, and you can hear it like screeching, and like you can kind of hear it flopping around, I guess, for lack of a better term, on the ground. So I think that still tracks.
They also, when Tomas comes in,
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, not wrong, but Tomas.
When he comes in with the flaming sword, is the fire another way to extinguish it? Did he? I don't think he beheaded it. I think he just stabbed it with the fire.
I mean, in my opinion, I feel like I think you can set them on fire and cut their heads off. I want to say I could be borrowing that from some other type of fantasy monster, but
like probably Demon Slayer with like the sun being related to
fair.
fire. Yeah. But I think that would be fair too. Like in the
Yeah.
sense that like if
I don't
fire
know.
is a source of the sun, like why would it not
And also,
kind of
in my opinion, it's not a crazy change to make. Like I'm not gonna fucking throw a fit over the fact that they're not just cutting their heads off. Like it looked fucking sick when
as long as they
Varen,
look like they got fucked
Yeah.
up, that's all I need.
yeah, Varen fucking puts the fire on the sword, and I mean that never happens in the book, so that's a awesome way to show how to use the power, and also like the connection between Aes Sedai and Warder. Like that was sick. Like he obviously like went in there and like it's a thing that they probably done before where she just like lights his sword up and it was fucking badass.
That
Lord of
should have
Light.
happened in Game of Thrones.
The
but
Lord
Yeah.
of Light.
Yeah, I'm literally fucking Thoros of Mir. And she's an Airbnb host and she's Thoros of Mir.
And it times well that they did this because this is like the first episode we're really learning more about the different types of strands of the weaves. So like fire being one of them, that's pretty cool. Like wrapping that around a sword and making it look amazing.
About that and like because it all seemed like here in this season they've emphasized the colors of the strands, where in season one it felt like it was all just white.
And
So
for
I
what
really
it's
like
worth,
that.
I think the strands look better already than they did in season one.
Season one, I feel like they didn't tell us enough about the power itself. It was like I think it was very just kind of nebulous and like vague and like what the fuck is actually going on. Paul had asked a lot of questions about it, and I knew it would eventually get to a point where we would talk more about it. So I'm glad that they kind of, like you just said, hit the ground running with it in episode one.
Did it early on. They did the fake out with Moraine, and I was like, no fucking way.
Yeah,
Just
I
get
literally,
her
when I
back.
first watched, and this is bad, I guess, because I now have like this predisposition of like, oh, they're fucking it up. Where I was like, no fucking way, she's about to channel right now.
Same way. I totally fell for that fake out. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like kind of kicking it.
Yeah, I was like, please don't do this right now.
I would have cried.
Yeah, I was like, that's how I honestly, I mean, I think they deserve it though. I feel like until they show us more evidence that like they're making the right decisions. I mean, that feels overly harsh. I don't like being harsh, but I mean, that's kind of the mindset I'm rolling with. Where like I'm totally falling for everything where I'm going to be like, oh my God, they fucked it up until like, they actually show me. Yeah, exactly.
How about Lan's last line? He looks at her as they're both like bleeding out and he says, what aren't you telling me?
Yeah.
So obviously she's been trying to do something this whole time. Maybe the poem really is the catalyst that made her make the move in the first place to try to escape, but something is going on.
And I want to know too.
You watch the next like 2 episodes,
I mean, I want to know what she's not telling him too.
One last thing I will emphasize about the fighting in the shadows, the fades disappearing in the shadows, like teleporting kind of, is like they really emphasize. There's one shot I vividly remember of like the moon was just so bright, but because the moon was so bright, it created more opportunities for like obvious like shadows and like the abilities for them to appear behind them. So I thought the visual effects for this scene helped me understand that, okay, they're teleporting like using the shadows basically.
Yeah. The sound, I feel like that they have everything about the fades, the music, the sound of it is great. Like I loved it. It was like trying to chomp at land too. Like the sound of it sounds good. Like them coming out of the shadows sounds really cool. Like the shot of it, like with the moon behind it about to kill Moraine, like that was a sick shot. Like it just looks good. Also, Land dual wielding swords was pretty cool. They definitely no one ever picks up a fucking fade.
Like that's a thing going forward.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah, I need 2 swords in his hand at all times.
And I mean, like, there's definitely like a line of thought where like all of their blades of fades is like an important thing. And like we'll learn more about like the lore behind them and what they are. They're really like heavily poisoned, but also, I mean, it's literally like if you get cut with it and an Aes Sedai is not around, you're fucked. But obviously,
they emphasized that in season 1.
Okay, cool.
Moraine does take a knife in that battle at 4 Rivers. I'm pretty sure. And like
4 Rivers.
Is that what it's called?
You just added 2 more rivers.
Is it 2 rivers?
2 rivers. That was like last night when we fucking played the movie actor game, and I forget, it was like maybe Mark Wahlberg, and your dad was like 4 brothers, and we were like 4 fucking brothers, dude. There's so many Mark Wahlberg movies out there, and you hit us with 4 fucking brothers.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm confusing with. I got 4 brothers still in my head now. 2 rivers, but yeah, they did emphasize because I mean, like her.
Okay, they did. With the
Darlo Goth, like they had to go all there because she was so incapacitated from taking that knife.
And Land's dad as well, Tam Althor. He gets cut and he's all fucked up.
Land's dad.
Oh my God, you're so right. Rand's dad, Tam
Roose Bolton.
Althor. Yeah, Roose Bolton. All right. So moving into our final storyline. This is the White Tower storyline. I think you can just talk about everything before the kitchen scene. So we get kind of Egwene traveling through the tower. I thought this was a great reintroduction to her as a character, the White Tower as a setting and everything. It's kind of her just like, moving through the different rooms of the tower. She starts in the Amerlin's room. Actually, we get to see Leanne Sedai again, who is the keeper. It's kind of Amerlin's right hand woman. Dave was very close at throwing a random guess out of what her name was, so I appreciate that. Paul, on the other hand, had no idea.
You don't like to have
So
fun, do you?
We'll deal with that later on, I guess. And we see Alana again, and she's a little tussle with the warders in bed. I know Paul liked that part. We get to see warders training, and then Egwene heads down to the kitchens with all the dishes that she has. So I guess just like thoughts on like this reintroduction to Egwene's character, this kind of the start of season 2.
I just feel like the White Castle. White Castle? No, White Tower. I did that last time.
The White Castle's in the Four Rivers on the other side of that.
We're in a different universe, me and Paul.
I did that season 1. I called it the White
We're
Castle.
watching Time Wheel. I don't know about you guys.
It's just another spin of the wheel. It's
The White Tower definitely feels like more of a place now.
Yeah,
like,
it feels alive.
We got a lot of it in season 1, but it feels like we didn't see like the outside. I mean, we got a few shots here and there, but the actual shots of Egwene going through it, I think what you were saying, Kyle, was really good. It really does feel more of a physical special place.
And the Mistress of Novice scene was really cool too. Like the garden outdoor scene inside the White Tower looked amazing. Just aesthetically, it looks like high fantasy, and we're doing it big, and Amazon's killing it with these shots.
Maybe it's just me being fresh off this Witcher watch through, but like I'm just thinking like Aretuza, and then like we got like our Ciri character with Rand. Like it is this style of story. Like it's what it's supposed to, but I just like I'm seeing the White Tower. I'm like, oh, we're at Aretuza. Like it's same thing,
I mean, all these kind of stories, like you said, they have classic beats like this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really beautiful. Like you said, like I think even you said we're kind of like marveling, like you said, wow, like openly, like when we get that shot like over the river of like them like being, like 100 stories up, whatever it is. Like it was really awesome to see.
I wouldn't survive here if I had to.
Oh yeah,
Kyle
no heights
in places, but yeah, it looked great. There's a detail when Egwene walks like around and watching like the warders train. There's 3 girls that are also in white that are kind of like on the railing watching, and you notice that, or rather I noticed because I'm the man, that their cuffs are like rainbows, and then obviously Egwene and Nynaeve just have white cuffs. They'll talk more about that, but essentially they kind of, they're novices at this point. It's just like another little world building thing of like there's levels to the training, so like they're on the lowest rung of the training. That's why they're.
I hear rainbow, and I'm just thinking they're probably right at the point of being like Aes Sedai. They're about to choose their color. It's
pretty much like, so that's why Egwene and Nynaeve and all other people are like doing the dishes, and like while those girls are just like kind of hanging out watching the warders train, just kind of showing the levels of the students.
It would suck going through all that, but it would be so worth it in the end. I would do anything they wanted me to do.
I mean, dude, sometimes it's like. It's years. Like I think just like it's like a thing from the books. Like some people are like, novices for like 10 years, and then the next level is accepted, and you're accepted for 5 years. And then
I don't know if I could be a novice for 10 years, but I could do it for like a couple of years.
They also live way longer.
You live way longer when you like are an Aes Sedai and they can like touch the power. It extends your lifespan. Yeah, that's the word, lifespan.
It feels like all the training Aes Sedai are like watching the warders, like almost like which one's gonna be mine. Like watching them train, they're kind of like growing together, training together.
Look at you, Paul. Look at you, bro.
And this pretty much sums up the whole dynamic between Nynaeve, Egwene, and the White Tower in general. But you find out super early they're going to continue with the trend of season 1, where Nynaeve pretty much is bitches about everything, and Egwene is just completely in it for the experience and the ride, and she wants to lean into all this. So it's just like completely opposite ways of looking at the White Tower and all this training, and they reemphasize that 3-4 times throughout this episode, but they reestablish that like ASAP, because Nynaeve is just always just like.
And her beef is that her mom, what was it? Her mom got like rejected by them or something.
The wisdom that kind of raised her.
Was rejected. Okay.
Yeah, because her parents were killed. And then she like someone like brought her, essentially, I guess you could say, quote unquote, adopted her, brought her to the 2 rivers, and like that woman got rejected.
I don't know about the 2 rivers, but 4 rivers.
Yeah. Well, I guess they were on their way to the 4 rivers. They just stopped at the first 2 and then made a home, and we're like, these 2 rivers ain't bad.
I'll take it.
Okay, who needs 4, right? You have 2. So this kitchen scene is, Egwene goes to the kitchen, like Luke said. A big point of this, the beginning of this scene is, Nynaeve's reluctance to, I guess, in her opinion, was waste time, because she's like, dude, they literally told us like the last battle's coming, and like we have all these roles to play, and like we literally have done nothing but do fucking dishes for 6 months. Like, what the hell's going on? And then Alana shows up, and then we have a very great scene, which is just kind of a lesson. This is our first lesson that we've seen in a while on how to use the one power. So I think this answers a lot of questions that, especially Paul, we talked about in season 1. So I guess just like all your thoughts on this kind of training scene.
Loved it from a viewer's perspective. Gave us the 5 different threads: air, earth, fire, spirit, water, I believe.
Yep.
So that's cool. Like you can pull on one or pull on multiple different combinations. It's, just a good solid magic system.
And the coloring of it was sick. I just didn't expect to see like the earth one looking green, mixing it with it. That all of that's good, and I'm happy they're gonna kind of lean into the visual aspect of it. But also keep in mind, anybody that doesn't have the power is seeing nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just like them going like, like just dancing and stuff. So
Yeah, literally. And it was funny, like listening to interviews of people asking, like, what's your mindset as an actor? Because obviously all that gets added in at the end. So like they're just kind of dancing and doing their dance
Thinking
thing,
that's like when Jaw Red Lady
Leandrin.
come, like when she
We knew
like,
who you were talking about.
when she is forcing like Nynaeve against the wall. I'm just thinking like if the visual effects weren't there, she's just like
Yeah, exactly.
nothing.
But they said it like you just got to fucking go 100%.
you gotta just visualize it, otherwise
Yeah.
you just feel like an idiot.
Yeah, because if you don't go 100%, like it's gonna look bad. So like
Yeah.
you literally just need to, gung ho and throw yourself into
I
it.
feel like in animes or in fantasy in general, there's like a first initial lesson for the magic users to do. It's always really cool, depending. And this is a really good like first one. I feel like it's a very basic step of just like calling on 2 different threads and weaving them. Very basic. And just the fact that you can't leave unless you drink your water. That was just a cool ultimatum. And Nynaeve says, fuck your magic, I'm gonna drink this myself and then go fucking shit my brains out.
Yeah, for sure, pissing out her butthole after that. For sure. But I just liked how, so in season 1, episode 1, we had the conversation of like, is Moraine, when she's channeling, is she like pulling the fire itself? Is that like the source of the power, or what is it? And I feel like they did a good job kind of explaining it here, where like you're kind of like, she says threads of earth from the stones of the tower, threads of water from the air or the water around you. So they are kind of pulling on those types of elements around them.
like life energy.
Yeah, it's just good. Honestly, like when I was trying to explain like the power to people who had not read the books, it honestly is kind of like, to me, it feels like tripping on mushrooms a little bit, where it's like you have to have that like that connection and like feeling it like that, and like the ecstasy of how it feels for you. So
I might be overthinking this a little bit too much, but let's just say in a vacuum you have like X amount of water, like it's to your feet. Does that mean you have a limited supply of the one source? Like you could eventually run out of water, or like you're just kind of pulling the energy that is from the water, kind of like you have an infinite source now that you have water next to you? Or is it like I'm using the, like, again, I might be overthinking this a little bit too much. I might just be delving too much into it, but like would that water eventually run out if they were constantly drawing on that water?
To my knowledge, there's nothing like that ever happens in the books, where it's like
The source runs
yeah,
out.
like there's no water around us. Like we can't use water threads. So
If anything, the problem is
like-
people taking in too much of the source around.
yeah,
them.
I think honestly it
Okay.
could be, this might just end up being like a teaching method, where it's like, visualize the stones and like the earth
Oh,
type
yeah.
of deal.
I just needed that clarification.
Yeah, but I don't.
because I'm also
it's
thinking
not like like a resource supply thing.
because it isn't.
to
Is
my
it in
knowledge.
The Witcher then that they actually like when they pull shit, like it's actually like there's consequences? Obviously, maybe I'm just thinking of something else, but like I'm just curious is all.
No, I mean that makes a lot of sense. I mean, with bending and Avatar, we mentioned
That
Avatar
might have been
earlier.
it too. Man.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the live action Avatar. movie.
Yeah. So I mean, the Avatar's like that. But to my knowledge, just to reiterate and repeat, it's not like a resource thing like around you. You're just you're just doing the damn thing basically.
Poor Egwene, man. She's just trying her hardest. She's trying to be the best student possible. Like even she's saying, even the Amerlin did this. Like we're just paying our dues.
Yeah.
Trying to cast without using her hands, trying to touch the one power without using her hands, because she's like, I'm not here to do easy mode. I'm here to do hard mode. And then constantly gets dunked on because she's next to Nynaeve, who's just like, Oh, what did she say? She
They
said
said
Egwene.
Egwene is stronger than most, but Nynaeve is 10 times the power of
Yeah.
her. So
Yeah,
it's
like what the fuck?
And Egwene has a little look on her face, like motherfucker.
Yeah, she was like smirking because she was like, Egwene's stronger than most, and she's like, oh yeah, cool. But she's not even fucking close to touching you, and it's just like this chick doesn't even
I
care.
wonder-
he hasn't verbally complained yet, though. It's just
Yeah,
all
I was-
body language.
I'm just now thinking, like, I wonder if that's going to cause a rift in their relationship at all. Because, like, Egwene obviously wants to give it her all in training. Like, imagine if Nynaeve had Egwene's want to, like, be there. Like,
Yeah.
Nynaeve would be done this shit in no time.
They
It's
said
also-
that Nynaeve hasn't embraced the source yet. right?
Yes, very important point is that she has not channeled once since they got to the tower. So that's like a thing.
And that's the whole sitters with the Mistress of Novice meeting, right? That we're going into right now.
yeah. I
Yeah.
just want to say like an important. I don't want to say like an important part of it. Just like a fun book thing. I think is that like when Alana's saying like close your eyes and picture a flower and like it's like a whatever it's red, all that shit. That is how they teach them to channel in the books. Like they literally have a scene where like, and then that's how Egwene does it. So like throughout in the early books when Egwene is still kind of new to channeling, and she always is like thinking of the rosebud and like the rose petal and things like that.
Yeah. Let me take a little bit of this next
Yeah.
scene. So this is exactly what I just mentioned. Like the Mistress of Novice is a very important title in the tower. They're responsible for all these newbies coming into the tower, and they're supposed to overlook them. They even punish them. They scold them all the time, but it's all in the hope of just training them to become apprentice. It's to weed out who won't become an apprentice. So that's why she's like asking for all this feedback from some of the sitters. We see Leandra in there. And some things that I took away from this conversation are, I think it was Leandra specifically says like, or maybe it was the Mistress of Novice. One of them says like the novices are getting, it's the amount of novices that the White Tower is receiving every year is going down, and the ones that are coming in are significantly weaker than most. And this connects back to the end of season 1, where the Father of Lies is like at the Eye of the World says, like last time you tried this, you came with 99 of your other Aes Sedai. You guys were way stronger. You knew what you were doing. So basically, right now, like the state of magic on the good side is like the poorest it's ever been. Everybody's weak. It's rarer. So even like the strong Aes Sedai, even the strong Aes Sedai now would have been like the average Aes Sedai back in like the Golden Age. So like it's just a weird, weak state that the world's in. That's kind of unfortunate timing with the Dark One getting stronger and stronger.
And that's why Nynaeve is so important to them, because she's the first one that's like, holy shit, we actually have a chance against the Dark One, because
that's
she's
what
so powerful.
Leandrin said. She wants to use Nynaeve as a weapon because she's the strongest thing that's been to the tower and whatever.
1,000 years.
And other thing I'll say, just and then you guys can talk about whatever, is they do quickly mention, just like a little sidebar, that another false dragon stronger than Logain has popped up in another country that we haven't been introduced to yet, called Chaldea. So just background world building, because that's how Logain got introduced to. If you were like, he was subtly mentioned, I think in like episode 2 about him gaining some support. So I like how they do that. There is stuff going on in the background, and they're making sure that if you're paying attention, we are informed, because I'm sure that dragon at some point is going to make an appearance or whatever, that false dragon. So keep that in the back of your head.
Inject that storyline into my vein. That's very second, because Logain was great, and I'm just Kyle knows this very well. I just love strong characters, and so you're telling me that this guy's going to be stronger than Logain, who was able to take on like 4 Aes Sedai at once, basically, like. Right now, please.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is going to be at the end of season 1. We see those ships and all those people. It was a weird way of using it. They were almost casting through people. I wonder if this is the same people or just a different faction. But anyway, still looking forward to it.
Should we clarify where this country is versus where those ships that he's talking about were? Is that even important?
Now we might as well. I know they're different.
Yeah, I mean,
just like it's geographically north.
Geographically, they're close to each other. They're on the same. So the weird thing about the continent is that there's only a west and a south coast. Like everything else is just extends, and you don't see it. It's just like
mountains and desert.
Yeah, it's just mountains. On the north is like where the Dark One lives, and all that kind of shit is going on. It's just like a mountain range where the Blight is, essentially. That's the top of the continent. And then the east of the continent is just like a huge mountain range, and then like a desert. So there's only a west and a south coast. And Chaldea is on like the northwestmost coast, and then where those ships were coming in was like kind of like mid-west coast. So they're on the same coast.
Yeah, it's close to each other.
On the same coast. And then Tarvalon, as they say in the show. I was funny listening back to our podcast of me like going back and forth between like the one in the audiobook and the one in the show. I'm trying Tarvalon. is like northeast.
Okay.
So I guess
One quick thing that I just remembered about those people on the ships at the end. They, like I said, they looked like they were channeling through people, and we got Egwene and Nynaeve being when they were taking their lesson. They said that at the battle at the end of season one, I forget her name, please forgive me. The princess that used the magic used Egwene and Nynaeve's. She drew on their power. So maybe that's what the people on the ships are doing that attacked at the end. They're literally
It's like a form of linking.
Yeah, just like almost capturing people and then using their power because it just makes them stronger. But anyway,
yeah, I think you're doing a great job of thinking about kind of the mechanics of the world and how they can be applied in other situations. So that makes up for not remembering Lyanna Sedai's name. So there you go. You're off the shit list. Although White Castle is kind of that's close.
classic.
Yeah, that's going to be a staple for the pod going forward now.
So just like other little bits of tidbits that we get that the hunt for the horn has been announced in Ilion. So Ilion is where Bail Doman was from. So we're kind of building up that place a little bit. We're learning more about it. We know that the horn is like Perrin and Loyal are on like the actual hunt for the horn because we know it's a real thing and we're actually chasing it. But the hunt for the horn that they're announcing is more of like a ceremonial thing almost. They do it like every so often. It's technically every like hundreds of years. So like that's like another like they're Leandrin's using that as like shit's fucking changing in the world right now. Like crazy stuff's happening because I'm sure like the last hunt was announced like 400 years ago. You know what I mean? So that will be a thing that's like going on in the background kind of throughout like most I would say this season, maybe next like few seasons of like we'll meet hunters like out in the world where like they're like basically an adventurer that's hunting for the horn, things like that. So like that's good that they dropped that this early. We also learned that there's Trolloc raids near Arafel. They say Arafel is just like a similar, like it's a borderland nation in the north, kind of like Shinar, same type of deal. But just again, like Trollocs are now raiding more, so it's just like it's all of these things that are contributing to Leandrin having this feeling that like something's fucking going down. I mean, now the dragon's been reborn, they don't know that yet, but it's just kind of like the wheel is spitting things out in this like nature where it's like, okay, we're building up to some like insane kind of point in history that we're at. We also get a little interesting background on Leandrin that she has, I guess, was killed a novice, for lack of a better way to say it, in training. So she's permanently banned from training novices, which I think is some really funny world building. Maybe not funny, it's kind of sad, but it's just like adds to her mystique.
What was her comment back?
Yeah, she was like, the one touching the one powerful is dangerous, dude. It's just like you're taking the risk.
Yeah, literally
She's
no
funny,
no
man.
blame or fault whatsoever.
She's funny.
And dude, Kate Fleetwood, the actor, is amazing. She's so good at it. I fucking love it.
She's the star of this next scene too. So
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we get Nynaeve training with the swords for a second.
Yeah, which is an interesting little wrinkle they've added. I'm not against her having this connection with the warders, and it's nice that they had that conversation with her. It's just like an interesting change they've made that she's like legit besties with these guys.
She was bonding with them in season one.
Yeah.
Like, at like the campsites and on the fires and stuff like that. She like chose the warders over like all the Aes Sedai and stuff like that.
So like is she again just compared to the Witcher? It's like Ciri, like is she gonna be a Witcher? Or is she gonna be a mage? Like I mean, obviously she's gonna be the strongest mage probably that we've seen besides Rand, I'm guessing. But so I'm obviously inclined to go that way. But I've definitely thought it was interesting that we're getting all these perspectives of her, not only just in this scene, but in like the past season of her like connecting with warders. So it's just something that I caught.
I like that they put her in her place too when she doesn't say Alana Sedai.
Yeah,
That
because
was-
I mean,
they also praise her though. They do say like you're not bad with a sword. So like I think she's just going to be eventually when she matures out of all this like hate for the Aes Sedai and everything. I think she's just going to be an all around badass of just magic and sword wielding.
she's gonna have a fire sword she's just gonna roll around with.
So
That would be the best way.
Anyone getting fire swords, more fire swords, please.
But yeah, like that's a good call. That Nynaeve is clearly like confrontational to them. That's a thing in the books is that like you're supposed to like I believe his name's Maxim or Maskim. Like he said corrects her and says like it's Alana Sedai to you. Like that's a big thing in the books is that Nynaeve always forgets, quote unquote, forgets to kind of give them the honorifics all of the time. So it's nice that they've kind of have continued that little bit in the show. All right. So we get a really funny scene after this, which is Egwene and Alana. I am just a huge fan of Alana's actress and like what they're doing with the character. Um, and this was just like a really funny scene where she kind of misinterprets Egwene. This got a really big laugh out of me the first time I watched it. So just kind of, I guess, curious thoughts on this.
Just horny motherfucker over there. She's like, release yourself to it. Don't get overwhelmed. I'm like, dude, come on.
I would
Obviously talking about the one.
I don't think I loved it because I expect it different out of Alana in terms of like being a mentor and stuff like that. So I'm gonna reserve my judgment until I see more of how she is. Are they gonna lean into this lane like more often of her just being like kind of like not airheaded but like whimsical and just like less serious of a character? Because I kind of wanted a little bit more with that scene because Egwene was like, all right, I'm out. Like you're not helping me. She does drop a little bit of advice, but that's pretty. I'm just pausing right now with my thoughts until I see more.
That advice was awesome though. She was like, "Oh, you're not talking about sex. You're talking about touching the one power. Oh, it's probably because you're focusing on the individual like grains instead of like it as a mass.
Yeah,
and touching earth and water at the same time. So I don't know. It's really cool explanations of it.
Yeah, and I like the quote of Egwene. Remember, things are messy before they're perfect. Nothing worthwhile is neat and tidy. Because Alana does say in that meeting that they had in like the kind of the garden that Egwene just really needs to loosen the fuck up. She's just like trying so hard to be good and perfect and everything. So it's nice. I think that they're establishing that little bit of like a mentee mentorship relationship. You know, that she feels like she can go to Alana with these kinds of questions, even if Alana might not understand the question at first and give her an answer she's not actually looking for. Okay, so we then get Nynaeve training alone in the kitchen. This is, I feel like it's just like a classic thing where like, you know, she actually wants to be good but doesn't know how to like show and like, you know, try hard and get that fear of failure type of deal like in front of other people, so she does it on her own. And then Leandrin comes in and gives her quite a unique lesson in the one power and channeling.
This scene was amazing. I thought this was incredible. This was almost the best like physical showing of the power. But yeah, like Leandrin, just the way she whips out the Full Metal Alchemist like freaking blade arm was so cool out of air. That was amazing. And then just like knowing how to get under Nynaeve's skin and trigger her, it probably instilled more Nynaeve right there than like all of her other lessons combined, and it's going to go a long way. So we're definitely going to be seeing more how she learned and grows from this moment. But what do you guys think? Did you like how Leandrin went about this?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of referenced it last season. Moraine said that she couldn't really use the one power until her Aes Sedai that was training her came in and beat the shit out of her with the one power until she like could defend back. And even the warders, they're not touching the one power, but like they were like, hey, your first week you get beat the shit out of you into the inch of your life. Just kind of seems to be
hazing,
like,
baby.
Yeah, hazing. But no, I mean, I guess it is like the easiest way to trigger, almost like break if you're talking about like Mistborn or
I was just
something
gonna
like that.
say, sounds like this guy's about to make a Mistborn reference.
Yeah, exactly. So and it did get a response out of her. Like Nynaeve fucking just screamed, and that was the first time she touched the one power, I guess, since the whole shit went down. So it was maybe not the quickest means, but got some results.
I give a little bit more credit to Leandrin here. I still think she's kind of a little bit of a bitch, don't get me wrong, but she was so badass. I mean, like Nynaeve counters obviously and like shoots the wind back at Leandrin, but like Leandrin so calmly just like after she's like, oh, you finally, there you go, you did it, like she calmly just like brushes it off, like lands so elegantly, and just is like, this woman,
sick.
yeah,
She
she's
said-
got to be the second strongest Aes Sedai we've seen behind Moraine. So
She said you saw that weave once and you were able to copy it. I'm like, yo,
That's
hot.
huge too.
Yeah.
That ability to do that is like very important.
Basically like
the
a
shotting gun.
Shotting gun. I almost said a
Yeah.
shotting gun. But she also Nynaeve triggered when Leandrin was going off about warders and saying they're glorified dogs, like even your precious land, and that's what really triggered Nynaeve. So
Yeah.
don't forget about that romance.
Yeah.
Is there ever a chance for Lan to be Nynaeve's warder?
They kind of talked about it a little bit.
We've talked about this, I feel like, in season 1, but I don't remember how the conversation went. But like now that
It's
Moraine,
technically
like,
possible, but
I mean, especially now with Moraine, I mean, I fully believe that Moraine is going to get her powers back somehow. But this has definitely opened up way more of a possibility of Lan moving to Nynaeve, who actually, you know, has powers. That's all I'm thinking, really.
Put a pin in it. We'll see. It's on
Yeah,
the
put a
board
pin in
now.
it, Yeah.
I mean, I would say within like I don't even want to say the laws of physics, but like the laws of the world, how things work, technically it's possible.
Okay.
I guess would be an answer for that. I literally have an all caps Kate Fleetwood as a queen in my notes because she was just so good in this scene as well. And a very similar scene to this does happen in the books. It's the Amerlin seat that happens with instead of Leandrin, which is even more like, whoa, what the fuck? Like afterwards, they're like, okay, we're never gonna talk about this.
Isn't she like choking her out?
Yeah, Nynaeve's like
like, just,
fucking her up basically, and they're like, okay, we're never gonna talk about this again.
I would have liked that. I feel like that would have. I mean, sure, here, like I said, Leandrin's badassery kind of comes out a little bit here, but like, it would have been like an honor almost to have the Amelin seed coming to you and being like, "Let's get your shit going," you know, like
they're on like a boat. They're going from Faldara, where they obviously ended season 1, book 1. And then the Amerlin comes and talks to Egwene and Nynaeve, and they're there together, and like it happens, and they're like, okay, let's never talk about this again, type of deal. And that's also the scene where the Amerlin's like, you fucking, because you're supposed to call the Amerlin mother, and like Nynaeve, like I said, quote unquote, forgets a lot, so then they're all pissed off at each other, and then it just like is the outburst, and it's like, okay, I just fucked up the Amerlin seed. All right. So after this kind of emotional thing for Nynaeve, we then get a conversation between Nynaeve and Egwene. They got Perrin's letter that he sent them, and so then they're talking about home, their friends, because it is Beltane, as Egwene informs us, which also lets us know that it's a year since season 1, episode 1. So I think that was a nice little timeline drop for us. No thoughts about the letter. Interesting. Okay,
Dave. This is when Dave goes
the
to bed.
bathroom scene.
Yeah.
This is time to hit up the restroom real quick. I mean,
just re-emphasizing that they think Rand is dead.
Yeah,
and they're missing him. And we did get a little sneak peek of somebody with a shaved head. It was cool to see him. No lines, just a little peek. Hopefully he gets to shine a little bit in episode 2.
His voice actor is going to be different. There's no lines.
That would be crazy. Can you imagine? And yeah, I think an important thing too here is like Nynaeve kind of telling Egwene, like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'll always be here. Because I feel like, obviously, like Luke said earlier, like Nynaeve is clearly being like, I fucking hate this shit. Like, I don't want to be here type of deal. So I think it's nice that they have this kind of like reconnection at this point, because like we've also said, Egwene could easily, be getting jealous of her. So like, they really only have each other. So they shouldn't be fighting like this. And it's nice they're kind of reconciling like this.
It's just like a good full circle moment for the Emmon Fields 5. Everybody gets their second to shine, and I guess we'll talk more about Matt in a second. But like we saw the Egwene and Nynaeve bonding. We get to see Rand also doing this ceremony by himself, which is supposed to be like the reveal that he's alive, which obviously. And then Perrin himself has the internal struggle of trying to let go of his wife. He almost puts his wedding ring down on the boat, but then last second pulls it back. So it means that he's still living in his head. And he's still dealing with all this, which is going to make for an interesting revelation. Like if he does come into some confrontation with Pod and Fane sooner rather than later, because he's still going to be split all over the place, not knowing what to do. That's why I'm hoping like maybe he has some more conversations with Elias soon and like starts to figure things out. But then, should we go right into the Matt stuff, because we haven't even, because that's also all connected to the letter, because Leandrin again just goes down. You can see that he's in the White Tower because Leandrin's reading him the letter, but she purposely leaves off any mention of Matt himself from Perrin, which I guess is her way of just fucking with him. Like she is just doing all this crazy, string pulling, whatever it is, but like trying to break Matt down even further. And you can tell because he says some important things here. He says, I haven't touched a dagger in 6 months. I'm basically just like in fetal position, sitting here crying all the time. Like he is just depressed and he's destroyed by his interactions with that dagger. And then it seems like he's locked in the cell, and then we see I don't know. Did you guys take that as did he want to just like, does he have his way of seeing outside, or is that a Shawshank Redemption thing where he's like building he's trying to get his way out? Like, how do we take that?
I kind of didn't know. I took it as 2 different ways. One, yes, he's looking and seeing if he can possibly escape or something like that. Or 2, he is hiding something else. Like he was able to smuggle something in, and he is keeping it there and hiding it behind that brick or whatever, so the Leandrin or any Aes Sedai can't find it. I don't know what it would be if it was
Just a regular
the
old
dagger.
It's
or
probably
what.
just a regular old butter knife. It's like I just need the sensation of the knife in my hands. So
That's an interesting take.
no,
Don't hate it.
no, I agree with Paul completely. I think it was I really didn't know how to take it. I kind of took it as a means of escape, or like he is hiding something else. I mean, obviously we know the daggers with patent fame, but like it would be wild of a twist if he somehow still did have it. But
That would legitimately solve almost all of my gripes related around the dagger. If the dagger that Pot and Fane had at the end of season 1 wasn't the real one,
yeah,
that answers the loyal thing. And then it also adds on to Matt being like sketchy and choosing not to go through the ways. So that would actually be the best answer for me. I am 100% confident it's not the answer.
yeah, I don't think so.
Well, 99%, I guess,
yeah.
but because I feel like Pot and Fane's too not gullible
He had the
enough to,
fucking knife.
yeah,
Yeah, he just
exactly.
had the knife.
He would know, I feel like.
Yeah.
But that would solve a lot for me if that was true.
What is like so okay, I'm just thinking of the quote from season 1 where they're like, one of you is the dragon reborn, some of you might turn to the dark side, so like obviously candidate number 1 right now is Matt because of how shitty he looks right now, and like but like Leandrin is like just feeding into this. Like, if I just wonder what I know she like is not the most fond of men in general, but like she could potentially be creating an evil person, just by keeping him captive here. I don't know if this is all because of its withdrawal. Like, does he still actually have withdrawal for the knife? Like, is she actually, maybe it's a year of like this shit that he has to go through before he's actually gone with the knife. I don't know, but like I just feel like she is feeding into the badness that is going through Matt right now.
I mean, she literally has him in like solitary confinement.
Yeah, and like the fact that she like didn't mention him in the notes, like that's just completely in my mind. I don't know again what her goal is, but like as just someone watching, I'm just like, she is just purposely fucking with him. Like, that's just there's nothing.
Men
Yeah, she hates men to the point that she's about to create potentially like a new dark friend like under their own like house. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. We'll see.
Really quick comment: if anybody out there has ever played the game Claw, it was for the PC, Windows, way back in the day. You open up, you're in a prison room like this, and he goes behind a brick and sees like a note that was left by the prisoner before him. Really cool.
You just
Unrelated.
spoil the game.
No, that's the opening scene.
Oh, okay.
But you're just saying it could.
It reminded me completely of that, and maybe there was like somebody else in there before him, and maybe he's gonna find something left over hidden.
Coincidentally, the person in that room before him also had touched the exact dagger.
Yes, the dagger cell.
I've been stuck here for 500 years after touching this dagger.
Yeah, it's interesting if it is true that he hasn't touched the dagger in 6 months. Just it's a storyline in the books essentially that like because he doesn't have it on him, like he gets like really really sick. It's kind of like it's honestly like a D plot, or maybe like a B plot in the second book, is that like Matt hasn't touched, like he doesn't have the dagger, and it's still kind of impacting him, so he's getting like sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker kind of. So I wonder, I wonder if they're gonna play on that at all throughout this season.
It didn't even like look that bad of a transition between the actors though.
I was just gonna say, I mean, we didn't even talk about it, so I was like feeling good that we all kind of agreed that the transition was perfect.
It was fine. Yeah.
My comment was gonna be, he is so fucking sick from not touching the dagger that his whole face is just, he's lost some weight. But no, honestly, yeah, when we see him just kind of like moping there, I'm like, that looks like Matt from season 1.
Sure, my dad wouldn't even notice.
Honestly, probably not. But he looked good, and I'm excited to see the potential for this character going forward.
Sorry, Paul, I thought you were about to say something. Do you have a take on the new actor, Matt? I mean, Paul.
The actor Matt.
Actor Matt, Paul.
No, pretty much exactly what Dave joked about. I was gonna say
you're a little pouty. That's why you're saying.
I got now I'm
kind of pouty over there.
Think of a new joke. Enough, and now he's mad.
standing here with my dig in the hand, and Kyle points it out too.
That's what I'm here for, baby. Okay.
Fucking take her home.
I was gonna say that's all the episode content. There is like a crazy montage at the end. That's like. It's kind of like a trailer, but in my opinion, it felt like, I don't know if I want to let them watch this. It's a little better just to watch the season itself. As a fellow Bingetown member, B Toms likes to say that trailers fucking suck and they ruin things. So I think at some level it would have ruined some things. So we ain't gonna talk about it. But if you watched it, I hope you enjoyed it. What are we doing now? Are we gonna do MVP? Would you like to segue us into that? Since it's your baby.
So we've done this for a couple of our shows that we covered in the past. We did it for Yellow Jackets. We did it for House of the Dragon. Probably a few more, but what we like to do, especially for fantasy shows like this, where there's a lot going on, we're going to go around round table and everybody's going to nominate their MVP and then their LVP for the episode. I'll start just because I'm just like introing it right now, and I
Thank
also
God.
we don't repeat either. So if your answer gets taken on the fly, and that's
me go.
also why I want to go first. There.
Let me go.
So my MVP is actually going to be Leanne.
Fuck.
No, we've all been talking about it throughout this episode. In a way, I knew that I needed to steal that first. But she was amazing. Like she's just great. She's a great presence in the White Tower as just like an antagonistic Aes Sedai. And every scene she's in, she's always got to have some, cheeky lines or cheeky motivations, whatever she's doing. And I can't get over how cool the air blade was.
Yeah.
Like that was just so incredible. And her interactions with Nynaeve, it all fits perfectly with her character. And I'm really excited for that dynamic going forward. So that was the easy MVP. And my LVP, I kind of let it slip in just how I was talking about it earlier. There wasn't really a clear option for me. So I'm just going to pick Alana just because of me wanting more from that scene with Egwene and her through the mentorship. But I'm sure as that grows on me and it continues, I'll be able to look back in hindsight and say that was like a seed plotter for how their relationship was going to go, and I'll like it more. But right now, just in my head, I didn't really want Alana to be. I wanted her to show a little bit more like of like not professionalism, but like give meaningful advice right off the bat. So like, well, as that goes on, I'm sure my opinion will change on that. But right now, MVP Leandra and LVP Alana.
Paul, you can go next.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just sitting here thinking of one now. All right, obviously I was gonna say Liana. She's got a lot of fingers going.
Liana is who you forgot.
Okay.
Leandrin.
Oh wow. I don't even get to say that anymore. I guess I got her name.
You're beat.
She's got her fingers in a lot of different pots, is what I was gonna say. But if I gotta get a new MVP, I'm gonna go with actual trio, and it's gonna be the Airbnb hostess.
Oh, you bastard! You fucking bastard!
Because not only are they guarding and shielding Moraine and Land, but they also save their asses at the end.
Fire sword.
And show their power, which was really cool.
Yep. So right now, Varen is 1 for 1. She's been in one episode and she is an MVP in someone's eyes. So that's a good start for Varen.
The LVP is going to be Master Doman from just getting swindled from fucking Moraine. Fair. Like he's a cool guy and everything, but he got absolutely swindled by the oldest trick in the book.
That's a fan favorite character right there. So that's
he's got some
creating a
catching up
lot.
to do.
You're creating a lot of enemies right now.
Yeah, seriously.
Hey, I'm excited for him. I mean, he's only at the bottom now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Dave, would you like to go next?
No, I'm stuck on my MVP after Paul took my trio.
Okay. My MVP is going to be Elias. Just because he got like just because he got like the biggest reaction out of me, I think, of like just of any scene and like any character being introduced. I was like, yo, like I was so hyped because the question was when Loyal's like, oh, we got a new like tracker or sniffer, and I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be so in the book it's a different guy. Like I said, his name's Huron. And he's a good character too. He's a nice guy. And I was like, oh, cool. This is gonna be sick. I wonder who Huron's gonna be. And then they fucking flashed to him, and I was like, this fucking Elias. So I was like, oh, let's go. So that's MVP for giving me my favorite moment. And then LVP is a little tough because I kind of like everyone.
Yeah,
but
right.
I'm gonna say Moraine because she is obviously she's dealing with a lot.
Vibe killer.
But yeah, she's quite a vibe killer. And she's really fucking crushing Land here. And I don't think she knows that she's doing it too. And clearly there's she has a reason behind it. But like, I don't know. It's kind of like a little much for me, for my taste, because I'm a big Land guy. Obviously.
LVP does stand for least vibey person. So.
Yeah. Well,
that would definitely go for Moraine.
That's totally Moraine. Jesus.
Alrighty. We have recovered from our choices being stolen. So we're going to start with MVP being, I don't know. His name is literally written down as Inktar.
It's a G. It's a G, not a K. Ingtar.
Okay, I have it as Inktar.
Yeah, I saw that on your notes.
Yeah. All right. So Ingtar, just because I'm hoping that his words will eventually reach Perrin. I think he had a really good moment with Perrin, obviously, and
like that anime storyline.
Yeah.
It does seem like he reads manga.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think so too. So I like him going forward. LVP, we'll give it to Nynaeve. Was not vibing with Nynaeve a lot, to be honest. This episode, she was a little bratty. I mean, I get it. Like her
classic Nynaeve.
Yeah, her backstory is definitely like I get why she would have these like feelings of hatred towards the Aes Sedai and everything, But at the same time, they did just say you are the most powerful person to walk through these doors in 1,000 years. Let's take your job a little bit more seriously. Let's get some actual focus going. So I'll give LVP to Nynaeve.
Yeah, she's pissing away all that potential at the moment.
Yeah.
And Gwen ain't fucking happy about it either. And neither is Dave. Okay. I just on the fly thought of this. We did it a lot in season 1. Just curious if we want to go around and just give our top 3 characters at the moment. And then we can kind of, I guess, maybe see how they change. I don't know if we want to do this every episode, but I mean, just something.
I do it maybe, like right now and then maybe at the season finale.
Yeah, just put it on the board for now, and then I mean, it could be classic. We'll say top 3, and then we'll fucking probably morph it into top 5. But just curious.
All right, since I was last, I'm gonna lead us off, and I'm just no particular order. This is going right off the dome. I'm just gonna go. We're gonna say Lan, Patton Fane, Dark One. We're rooting for the Dark Ones, baby. Let's go.
He knew as that was coming out of his mouth. That was
All right, that's quite the fucking start. Paul, what do you got?
I want to go Lan as well because he's a beast. I want to go Perrin because his powers awakening are really cool. Really excited for him going forward. And then I want to do Rand only for the sense that I'm really intrigued by him and his training and what he's been up to. I know we didn't really get him, but I'm probably putting him in my top 3 because I'm excited to see him.
All right, Luke.
So are we doing this from like perspective of just this season?
No, I just look where you're at right now.
Collective seasons.
Dude, it's so hard to not be biased being me and you, Kyle, I think, because like Rand, he's in there. I don't care. Rand,
I mean, say like he had a good end to last season. So,
yeah,
like there's only been 1 episode of season 2.
I'm going to say
based off mostly last season.
Rand, I'll say Rand, Moraine, and Padan Fane because I also just love the archetype of Moraine, and it was a weaker episode for her, but like she's still just so interesting every time she's on the screen. So I'm gonna pick her as like, and then Padan Fane's just like awesome.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna do Perrin. So I'm an OG Perrin guy to the day I die, and then Rand because how can you not like the DR? And then I'll do the Dark One as well because I really like his actor.
Yeah.
Mine, I feel like mine are going to be very subject to change just because I'm just thinking like
you're not throughout the whole season.
But we're also not going to get like I just don't see us getting that many scenes with like the Dark One and Padan Fane in it. So like I just feel like other characters as they shine through with more like screen time, I'm just going to appreciate that.
More. Will just be fun to see how it ebbs and flows throughout. Yeah. All right, so that is going to do it for Wheel of Time, Season 2, Episode 1, A Taste of Solitude. We'll be back, obviously, with Episode 2, Episode 3. Obviously, Amazon does their drops where they do, they dropped all 3 on, what is it, September 1st? Or it says the weird classic midnight. I think it's technically August 31st. And then we'll be back weekly. So we'll be dropping, a lot of, these first 3 episodes will come out fairly rapid fire. And then we'll be here every week. We don't have like a day scheduled yet for what we're going to do. We're also not good at being consistent with scheduling things. So they'll probably just fly off the shelves. So the best way to keep up with it is just going to be subscribed. You like that? How I brought that back around. If you subscribe, you'll just get the notifications. You don't need to have like a calendar thing set. It just pops up and you're like, oh my God, Bingetown TV dropped a new Wheel of Time deep dive. That's fucking awesome. So yeah, we're also covering a lot of other shit at this point. This is busy for us. We're doing One Piece live action. We love, fantasy, sci-fi stories, but we are huge anime and manga fans. One Piece live action, really excited about that. We're also covering Jujutsu Kaisen, which is an anime. And then I don't know if we're doing anything else, but we do a ton of shit. We're covering.
We're busy.
Yeah, we're just busy guys.
We're so busy. We're covering 2 shows.
We're just busy guys, all right? So that's what I'm trying to get across. We got priorities. And we've covered a lot of stuff in the past, so definitely be sure to stick around and find out.
Stick around and find out. It's a chart. That's our new chart. It's not fuck around and find out.
Stick around and find out.
All right, bye.
Yeah, sign this off. Good.
Woo!
Okay, yeah. That's good.
That's what it was. That's the